Om Namo Narayana, Jai Swaminarayan, Namaste. We are working our way slowly but surely through the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, and we're still on part 1, but we're starting today section 4. In the beginning, this universe was but the self of a human form. It reflected and found nothing else but himself. He first uttered, "Am he." Therefore he was called Aham. Hence to this day, when a person is addressed, he first says, "It is I," and then says the other name that he may have. Because he was first and before, this whole band of aspirants burnt all evils. Therefore he is called Purusha. He who knows this indeed burns one who wants to be Viraj, or the self, before him. He was afraid, therefore people still are afraid to be alone. He thought, if there is nothing else but me, what am I afraid of? From that alone his fear was gone, for what was there to fear? It is from a second entity that fear comes. He was not at all happy, therefore people still are not happy when alone. He desired a mate. He became as big as a man and wife embracing each other. He parted this very body into two. From that came husband and wife. Therefore, said Yajnavalkya, this body is one half of oneself, like one of two halves of a split pea. Therefore this space is indeed filled by the wife. He was united with her. From that men were born. She thought, how can he be united with me after producing me from himself? Well, let me hide myself. She became a cow. The other became a bull, and was united with her. From that cows were born. The one became a mare, the other a stallion. That one became a she-ass, the other became a he-ass, and was united with her. From that one-hoofed animals were born. The one became a she-goat, the other a he-goat. The one became a ewe, the other a ram, and was united with her. From that goats and sheep were born. Thus did he project everything that exists in pairs down to the ants. He knew, I am indeed the creation, for I projected all this. Therefore he was called creation. He who knows this as such becomes a creator in the creation of Raj. Then he rubbed back and forth thus and produced fire from its source, the mouth and the hands. Therefore both these are without hair at the inside. When they talk of particular gods, saying sacrifice to him, sacrifice to the other one, they are wrong, since these are all his projection, for he is all the gods. Now all this that is liquid he produced from the seed, that is Soma. This universe is indeed this much, food and eater of food. Soma is food, and fire the eater of food. This is supercreation of Raj, that he projected the gods, who are even superior to him, because he, although mortal himself, projected the immortals. Therefore this is a supercreation. He who knows this as such becomes a creator in this supercreation of Raj. This universe was then undifferentiated. It differentiated only into name and form. It was called such and was of such and such form. So to this day it is differentiated only into name and form. It is called such and is of such and such form. This self has entered into these bodies up to the tip of the nails, as a razor may be put in its case, or as fire, which sustains the world, may be in its source. People do not see it, for viewed in its aspects it is incomplete. When it does the function of living, it is called the vital force. When it speaks, the organ of speech. When it sees, the eye. When it hears, the ear. And when it thinks, the mind. These are merely its names according to functions. He who meditates upon each of this totality of aspects does not know, for it is incomplete, being divided from this totality by possessing a single characteristic. The self alone is to be meditated upon, for all these are unified in it. Of all these, this self should be realized, for one knows all these through it, just as one may get an animal through its footprints. He who knows it as such obtains fame and association with his relatives. This self is dearer than a son, dearer than wealth, dearer than everything else and is innermost. Should a person, holding the self as dear, say to one calling anything else dearer than the self, "What you hold dear will die," he is certainly competent to say so. It will indeed come true. One should meditate upon the self alone as dear. Of him who meditates upon the self alone as dear, the dear ones are not immortal. They say, men think, through the knowledge of Brahman we shall become all. Well, what did that Brahman know by which it became all? This self was indeed Brahman in the beginning. It knew only itself as I am Brahma. Therefore it became all. And whoever among the gods knew it also became that. And the same with sages and men. The sage Vamadeva, while realizing this self as that, knew, I was Manu and the sun. And to this day, whoever in like manner knows it as I am Brahman, becomes all this universe. Even the gods cannot prevail against him, for he becomes their self. While he who worships another god, thinking he is one and I am another, does not know. He is like an animal to the gods. As many animals serve a man, so does each man serve the gods. Even if one animal is taken away, it causes anguish. What should one say of many animals? Therefore it is not liked by them that men should know this. In the beginning, this, the Kshatriya and other castes, was indeed Brahman, one only. Being one, he did not flourish. He specially projected an excellent form. The Kshatriya, those who are Kshatriyas among gods, Indra, Varuna, the moon, Rudra, Parjanya, Yama, death, and Isana. Therefore there is none higher than the Kshatriya. Hence the Brahmana worships the Kshatriya from a lower position in the Rajasuya sacrifice. He imparts that glory to the Kshatriya. The Brahmana is the source of the Kshatriya. Therefore, although the king attains supremacy in the sacrifice, at the end of it he resorts to the Brahmana, his source. He who slights the Brahmana strikes at his own source. He becomes more wicked as one is by slighting one's superior. Yet he did not flourish. He projected the Vaishya, those species of gods who are designated in groups, the Vasus, Rudras, Adityas, Visvadevas, and Maruts. He did not still flourish. He projected the Shudra class. Pusan, this earth is Pusan, for it nourishes all this that exists. Yet he did not flourish. He specially projected that excellent form, righteousness, or Dharma. This righteousness is the controller of the Kshatriya. Therefore there is nothing higher than that. So even a weak man hopes to defeat a stronger man through righteousness as one contending with the king. That righteousness as one contending with the king. That righteousness is verily truth. Therefore they say about a person speaking of truth, he speaks of righteousness. Or about a person speaking of righteousness, he speaks the truth. For both of these are but righteousness. So these four castes were projected, the Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra. He became a Brahmana among the gods as four, and among men as Brahmana. He became a Kshatriya through the divine Kshatriyas, a Vaishya through the divine Vaishyas, and a Shudra through the divine Shudra. Therefore people desire to attain the results of their rights among the gods through fire, and among men as the Brahmana. For Brahman was in these two forms. If, however, anybody departs from this world without realizing his own world, the self, it, being unknown, does not protect him, as the Vedas not studied or any work not undertaken do not. Even if a man who does not know it as such performs a great many meritorious acts in the world, those acts of his are surely exhausted in the end. One should meditate only upon the world of the self. He who meditates only upon the world called the self never has his work exhausted. From this very self he projects whatever he wants. Now this self, the ignorant man, is an object of enjoyment to all beings. That he makes oblations in the fire and performs sacrifices is how he becomes such an object to the gods. That he studies the Vedas is how he becomes an object of enjoyment to the rishis. That he makes offerings to the manas and desires children is how he becomes such an object to the manas. That he gives shelter to men as well as food is how he becomes an object of enjoyment to men. That he gives fodder and water to the animals is how he becomes such an object to them. And that beasts and birds and even the ants feed in his home is how he becomes an object of enjoyment to them. Just as one wishes safety to one's body, so do all beings wish safety to him who knows it as such. This indeed has been known and discussed. This aggregate of desirable objects was but the self in the beginning, the only entity. He desired, let me have a wife so that I may be born as the child, and let me have wealth so that I may perform rites. This much indeed is the range of desire. Even if one wishes, one cannot get more than this. Therefore, to this day, a man being single desires, let me have a wife so that I may be born, and let me have wealth so that I may perform rites. Until he attains each one of these, he considers himself incomplete. His completeness also comes thus. The mind is his self, speech his wife, the vital force his child, the eye his human wealth, for he obtains it through the eye, the ear his divine wealth, for he hears of it through the ear, and the body his instrument of right, for he performs rites through the body. So this sacrifice has 5 factors. The animals have 5 factors, the men have 5 factors, and all this that exists has 5 factors. He who knows it as such attains all this. Thus ends part 4. We'll continue next time with part 5. Thank you for watching. Jai Shri Krishna, Jai Shri Swaminarayan, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.